Chosen one, answer me this. Why are your hands trembling right now? Why did you wake up at 3:17 a.m. with your heart pounding like a war drum? Why does every fiber of your being know beyond shadow of doubt that clicking on this message wasn't random scrolling, but divine summons? This is not coincidence. You were meant to hear these words exactly on the 5th of September and 6th. Heaven has opened a file with your name written on it, and what's inside will either terrify you or transform you forever. Listen carefully. That suffocating weight pressing down on your chest right now, that electricity crackling through your spirit, that's not anxiety, beloved. That's recognition. Your soul recognizing the sound of eternity breaking through time to reach you in your living room, in your loneliness, in your desperation. The burning bush is igniting again, and Moses is 80 years old, wondering why God waited so long. The midnight hour has struck, and the foolish virgins are scrambling for oil while the wise ones trim their wicks. The final trumpet is warming up in heaven's orchestra pit, and you, yes, you, are being called to center stage for the performance of your eternal lifetime. If you feel your chest tighten, if your spirit is stirring like a caged lion, sensing freedom, type in the comments, "I'm ready." Don't think, just type. Let heaven record your agreement with what's about to unfold. Drop 777 if you know this message found you by divine appointment. That's not superstition. That's your spiritual confirmation code that you're aligned with what's coming. But here's what will shock you to your core. The 5th of September and 6th aren't just dates on your calendar, they're cosmic coordinates. The exact moment when heaven's patience expires and God's final strategy activates. For 70, 80, maybe 90 years, you've been walking toward this single moment. Every heartbreak, every betrayal, every night, you cried yourself to sleep, wondering if God forgot your address. It was all leading here. This isn't entertainment, chosen one. This is your summons. Before we go deeper into what heaven just revealed, I want to pause and thank every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and let the Holy Spirit lead your heart. But understand this, you have less than 48 hours to decide. Will you answer heaven's final call? Or will you spend eternity wondering what could have been if you just said yes when God whispered your name through a YouTube video on an ordinary Thursday that became the most extraordinary moment of your entire existence? The file is open, your name is called, heaven is waiting. What happens next depends entirely on what you do in the next 60 minutes. How many nights have you sat in that recliner where your beloved used to sit, staring at the empty space beside you, wondering if God forgot you're still breathing? How many mornings have you awakened to a house so quiet you can hear your own heartbeat echoing off walls that once vibrated with laughter? How long have you been invisible in a world that worships youth while treating your wisdom like yesterday's newspaper? Listen to me, chosen one. I see you there in that living room where Christmas morning once exploded with children's voices. Now those same rooms mock you with their silence. The dining table that seated 12 now holds nothing but your pills, your bills, and the weight of memories that feel more real than your present. Your phone sits silent for days. Remember when it never stopped ringing? When your opinion mattered? When your children called you first with every joy, every crisis, every ordinary Tuesday triumph? Now they text you on your birthday if you're lucky. They send you to voicemail when they see your name because, let's be honest, you've become an inconvenience to their busy lives. You gave them everything, every dream you buried so they could reach theirs, every sacrifice you made without complaint. You worked double shifts while your arthritis screamed. You went without so they could have. You loved them with a fierceness that bordered on worship. And what did it get you? Treatment like a burden, visits that feel like charity, grandchildren who barely know your name. The betrayal cuts deeper than any physical wound because it's wrapped in the flesh of your flesh. These aren't strangers who abandoned you. These are the children you birthed, the legacy you thought would carry your name with honor. Instead, they carry it with embarrassment, treating your aging like a personal inconvenience to their Instagram perfect lives. But it's not just family, is it? Your body, this temple that carried you through decades, is betraying you too. Medications cost more than you used to make in a month. Doctors half your age talk over you like you're already dead. Stairs feel like Mount Everest. Sleep comes in fragments between trips to the bathroom and the gnawing ache in bones that once danced, once worked, once held the people you loved most. You've become a stranger in your own skin, haven't you? Looking in mirrors and wondering where you went. When did you become this person that cashiers ignore, that waitresses rush past, that the world treats like you're already gone? The invisibility suffocates more than any physical pain because it whispers the cruelest lie, that your time has passed, that you don't matter anymore. Job understood this crushing weight. Why did I not die at birth, come forth from the womb and expire? He cried in Job 3:11. There he sat, covered in boils, mourning his children, stripped of everything that gave life meaning. His own wife told him to curse God and die. Even his friends became his accusers. The man who had everything lost everything, and still God wasn't finished with him. Elijah knew this desert too. 1 Kings 19:4 records his desperate prayer. It is enough. Now, O Lord, take away my life, for I am no better than my fathers. This was after calling down fire from heaven, after defeating 450 prophets of Baal, after witnessing God's mighty power. Yet there he sat under a broom tree, begging to die because one woman threatened him. Success couldn't shield him from the crushing weight of despair. David spent years hiding in caves, running from King Saul, wondering if God's promise of kingship was a cruel joke. Psalm 142:4 captures his anguish. Look to the right and see. There is none who takes notice of me. No refuge remains to me. No one cares for my soul. The future king felt forgotten, abandoned, invisible, just like you do right now. If this feels like your story, if these words are reading your heart like an open book, whisper, "That's me right now." Don't be ashamed of your honesty. Let the angels record your truth, because heaven sees what earth has overlooked. God counts the tears that fall in empty rooms. He hears the prayers whispered in the darkness when no one else is listening. But here's what's going to shake you to your core, beloved. Here's what the enemy doesn't want you to understand about your pain, your loneliness, your feeling forgotten. Every single tear you've shed in secret. Every night you've lain awake, wondering if anyone would miss you if you were gone. Every moment you felt invisible. It wasn't random suffering. It was strategic preparation. You see, God doesn't waste pain. He weaponizes it. Your isolation wasn't abandonment. It was consecration. While you thought you were being forgotten, you were being forged. While you believed you were being cast aside, you were being carefully positioned. Every person who walked away from you removed themselves from interfering with what God is about to do through you. But why the 5th of September and 6th? Why is this 48-hour window different from every other day you've endured in this desert of loneliness? Why has heaven chosen these specific dates to break its silence over your life? Because what's been building in the spiritual realm over your faithful endurance is about to explode into the natural realm in ways that will leave your enemies speechless and your children scrambling to explain how the parent they dismissed as irrelevant just became the most powerful person they know. Listen to me, chosen one. The 5th of September and 6th are not just calendar days marking another ordinary weekend in your weathered life. They are a spiritual Red Sea moment, the exact coordinates where your past meets your purpose, where your pain transforms into power, where everything you've endured finally makes sense. For 70 years, 80 years, maybe 90 years, you've been walking toward this exact threshold. Every sleepless night wondering if God forgot your address. Every door that slammed shut when breakthrough seemed within reach. Every betrayal that left you bleeding on the floor of your own living room, you thought it was punishment. Heaven calls it preparation. But here's what will shake you to your core. You've been living under the cruelest lie hell ever whispered. That voice that slithers through your mind at 3 a.m. when the house is too quiet and your thoughts are too loud, you're too old, your season is over. God uses younger people now. You've missed your moment. That is not God's voice. That is the hiss of a defeated serpent who knows exactly what you carry and exactly what it will cost him when you finally wake up. Society calls you old, heaven calls you dangerous. Think about Jericho for a moment. For 6 days, Joshua commanded Israel to march around those impossible walls in complete silence. 6 days of walking the same path, seeing the same obstacles, facing the same impossibilities. The walls looked exactly the same on day 6 as they did on day 1. Nothing had changed. Nothing had moved. Can you imagine the doubt that must have crept in? Are we just walking in circles? Has God forgotten us? Maybe this isn't going to work. But it wasn't the noise that brought down those walls. It was obedience in the silence before the shout. Your silence has been your Jericho march, beloved. Every quiet evening you thought God forgot you, that was preparation for the shout that's coming. Every moment you felt invisible heaven was positioning you like a chess piece for checkmate against the kingdom of darkness. Type, I will endure. If you know your silence was preparation, not punishment. Let heaven record that you understand the strategy. Remember Elijah, after calling down fire from heaven, after defeating 450 prophets of Baal, he found himself running for his life, hiding in a cave, begging God to let him die. 1 Kings 19:12 tells us that after the earthquake, after the wind, after the fire, God came in a still, small voice. The breakthrough came not in the drama, but in the whisper. Your whisper is coming, chosen one. But first, you need to understand why the enemy has fought so viciously to convince you that your time has passed. Look at Abraham, 75 years old when God called him to leave everything he knew. The world would have put him in a retirement home, but God was just getting started with him. At 99, God renewed his covenant. At 100, Isaac was born. Abraham's greatest chapter wasn't written in his youth, it was carved into history, when most men would be measuring curtains for their coffins. Moses was 80 when God called him from the burning bush. 80 when society would have discarded him as irrelevant. Heaven recruited him for the greatest liberation in human history. Those 40 years in the wilderness weren't wasted time. They were graduate school for someone who would need to handle 2 million complaining Israelites. Anna the prophetess was 84 when she recognized the Messiah in the temple. 84 years of waiting, praying, believing when everyone else had given up hope. But her age wasn't her limitation, it was her qualification. She had the spiritual maturity to recognize what younger eyes missed. Do you see the pattern? God doesn't call the qualified, He qualifies the called. And your qualification isn't your perfection, it's your perseverance through decades of fire. But here's what breaks my heart. Here's what makes me weep for the chosen ones sitting in empty houses right now, convinced their story is ending when it's actually reaching its greatest climax. You've been asking the wrong question. You've been wondering, God, why did you let me get so old? When you should be asking, God, what are you preparing me for that requires this much seasoning? Every wrinkle on your face is a line of wisdom. Every gray hair is a crown of glory earned through battles fought and victories won. Every scar on your soul is evidence that you survived what was designed to destroy you. You are not deteriorating, beloved. You are being perfected. The enemy has spent decades trying to convince you that your best days died with your spouse, that your purpose was buried with your dreams, that Medicare and Social Security are the pinnacle of what you can expect from your remaining years. But what if I told you that everything you've lost was just God making room for something greater? What if every door that closed was protecting you from settling for less than His best? What if your age isn't your expiration date but your activation code? Right now, while systems collapse around us, while families fracture and faith dies in the streets, God is positioning you as foundation stones for what He's rebuilding. While the young generation drowns in anxiety and builds on sand, you've learned to cast your cares upon Him and build on the rock. This is your Red Sea moment, warrior. The 5th of September and 6th aren't your retirement, they're your reignition. The silence is about to break, the walls are about to fall, and when they do, the sound will shake both heaven and earth. But the question that will determine your eternal legacy is this: when heaven opens that file with your name on it, will you answer the call or explain why you were too old to obey? Chosen one, I need to expose the filthiest, most vicious lie that's been poisoning your mind for years. Can you hear it right now? That serpent's whisper slithering through your thoughts at 3:17 a.m. when the house is too quiet and your heart is too heavy. You're too old. Your season is over. God uses younger people now. You've missed your moment. Stop. Right there. That voice isn't God's voice. That's not the Almighty speaking to His beloved. That's the hiss of the defeated serpent, desperate to convince you to lay down your sword when the final battle is at hand. That's Satan himself, trembling in terror because he knows what the 5th of September and 6th are about to unleash through your battle-tested faith. Listen to me carefully, beloved. The enemy has been running the same playbook for 70 years. He whispered to Moses at 80, "You're too old to deliver a nation." He hissed at Sarah at 90, "Your womb is dead." He mocked Abraham at 100, "God's promises have expiration dates." But here's what makes hell tremble at 3 a.m. Every single one of those over-the-hill saints became legends that shook the foundations of eternity. You think your grey hair disqualifies you? Moses didn't part the Red Sea at 30, he split it at 80 with hair whiter than fresh snow. You think your wrinkled hands can't hold power? Anna the prophetess was 84 when she proclaimed the Messiah to all Jerusalem. You think your slower steps mean you're finished? Caleb was 85 when he roared, "Give me this mountain." The enemy knows something about you that you've forgotten. He knows that a believer who's walked through fire and refused to bow carries an authority that strikes terror into the kingdom of darkness. He knows that your tears have been stored in heaven's bottles for decades, earning compound interest on breakthrough. He knows that every sleepless night you spent in prayer built spiritual muscle that can move mountains. That's why he's been working overtime to convince you otherwise. Remember Daniel, 21 days of silence, 21 days of what felt like divine abandonment while he fasted and prayed and received nothing but crickets from heaven. But Daniel 10:12 shatters the lie. From the first day you set your mind to understand, your words were heard, and I have come because of your words. The silence wasn't God ignoring Daniel. The silence was angels and demons locked in cosmic warfare over one man's breakthrough. Your silence isn't punishment, chosen one. Your silence is warfare. Look at history, beloved. Harriet Tubman didn't stop leading slaves to freedom until she was in her 70s. Nelson Mandela became president of South Africa at 75 after 27 years in prison. Grandma Moses didn't pick up her first paintbrush until she was 78 and became one of America's most celebrated artists. The world said they were finished. Heaven said they were just getting started. But here's what will shake you to your core. The enemy's attack on your age isn't random. It's strategic. He knows that when a chosen one finally realizes their worth isn't measured by their birth certificate, but by their faithfulness, they become unstoppable. You survived what should have killed you. You endured what should have broken you. You kept believing when logic screamed to quit. That's not accident, that's qualification. Every night you couldn't sleep, you were keeping vigil with the Almighty. Every tear that fell in silence watered seeds of intercession. Every moment you felt forgotten, heaven was taking notes on your faithfulness. The enemy whispers, "You're too late." But God roars, "You're right on time." He whispers, "You're too old." But the Almighty declares, "You're too dangerous." He hisses, "You missed your moment." But heaven thunders, "Your moment is now. Right now, I need you to break the silence that's been choking your destiny. I need you to declare war on the lie that's been stealing your hope. Stand up where you are. I don't care if you're in your pajamas, I don't care if you're alone in your living room. I don't care if your knees creak when you rise. Declare it, I survived. Write it in the comments right now. Not tomorrow, not when you feel ready. Right now. Break the silence with your declaration of victory over every scheme of hell that tried to convince you that you were finished when God says you're just getting started. Say it louder. I survived the divorce that almost destroyed me. I survived burying the love of my life. I survived watching my children become strangers. I survived financial ruin. I survived the diagnosis that terrified me. I survived it all because the greater one lives in me. Can you feel that? That fire rising in your chest? That's not nostalgia, beloved. That's not wishful thinking. That's the Holy Ghost, confirming what hell has been desperate to hide. You are not past your prime. You are in your prophetic season. The gray in your hair isn't a sign of decline. It's a crown of wisdom that this dying world desperately needs. Your slower steps don't signal weakness. They reveal the measured walk of someone who's learned not to run ahead of God. Your scars aren't marks of defeat. They're evidence that you've been through hell and lived to testify. But here's the question that will determine whether you spend your remaining years as a testimony of God's faithfulness or a cautionary tale of missed opportunities. Will you finally stop believing the enemy's lie about your age and start walking in the authority your scars have earned you? Because what I'm about to reveal next will prove that the 5th of September and 6th aren't just another weekend. They're the cosmic coordinates where your faithfulness collides with God's final strategy for this generation. Chosen one, what I'm about to reveal will shatter every lie you've believed about yourself. You thought you were ordinary. You thought you were forgotten. You thought those strange feelings, those unexplainable moments, those times when you felt different from everyone else, you thought they were weaknesses. They weren't weaknesses. They were evidence. Evidence that you were marked before birth. Heaven tattooed eternity into your soul while you were still forming in your mother's womb. Jeremiah 1-5 declares it with thunderous authority. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. Set you apart. Not just loved, not just chosen, marked. Like a king's seal pressed into hot wax, God's fingerprint was burned into your spiritual DNA before you took your first breath. But the enemy has spent decades convincing you that your marks were mistakes, that your sensitivity was weakness, that your difference was damage. Tonight, that deception dies. Listen carefully. There are 3 prophetic marks that have been blazing on your soul since the day you were born. 3 supernatural signatures that have made you feel like a stranger in your own skin, but have actually been preparing you for the 5th of September and 6th. The first mark, sensitivity to silence. You've always heard what others couldn't hear, haven't you? Not voices deeper than that. You've heard the sound of heartbreak before tears fell. You've heard the whisper of death before the phone rang. You've heard God's silence speaking louder than any sermon, while others needed constant noise, constant distraction, constant chatter. You found God in the quiet spaces. Your empty house isn't punishment, it's your seminary. Your sleepless nights aren't insomnia, they're appointments with the Almighty when the veil between heaven and earth grows thin. 1 Kings 19:12 tells us that after the earthquake, after the wind, after the fire, God came in a still, small voice. But here's what breaks my heart. You've been ashamed of your ability to hear that whisper when others need megaphones. Your sensitivity to silence has been your divine training ground. Every lonely evening taught you to depend on heaven's company instead of human conversation. Every unanswered prayer refined your spiritual hearing until you could detect God's heartbeat in the spaces between words. The second mark, the attraction of innocence. Children run to you, don't they? Even when you feel invisible to adults, even when your own family treats you like furniture, children see something. Animals sense it too. Stray cats find your doorstep. Wounded birds appear in your yard. Babies stop crying when you hold them. Why? Because innocence recognizes purity. Children and animals haven't been trained to ignore spiritual frequencies. They feel the light radiating from your marked soul like warmth from a hidden fire. Jesus said in Matthew 19:14, "Let the little children come to me, and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these." You carry that same anointing, that same magnetic pull that draws the innocent, the hurting, the lost. But the world convinced you it was coincidence, random encounters, lucky timing. No, beloved. That's the mark of heaven's ambassador, drawing hearts that need healing toward the source of all comfort. The third mark, thoughts that shape reality. This one will shock you to your core. Your thoughts don't just bounce around in your head, they move unseen realms. Your prayers don't just echo in empty rooms, they shift spiritual atmospheres. Your words don't just fill silence, they command circumstances. You've noticed it, haven't you? When you pray for someone, things change. When you speak blessing, breakthrough follows. When you declare God's promises, the impossible becomes inevitable. That's not positive thinking. That's prophetic authority flowing through marked DNA. Romans 8:26 reveals the mystery. The Spirit helps us in our weakness. We do not know what we ought to pray for, but the Spirit Himself intercedes for us through wordless groans. Your thoughts partner with heaven's strategy room. Your prayers become battle plans in the war between light and darkness. But here's the urgency that should grip your soul right now. The 5th of September and 6th are when these marks activate. Not partially, not gradually, fully. For 70, 80, 90 years, you've been walking around with dormant spiritual nuclear reactors in your chest. Heaven has been waiting for the exact moment when your character matched your calling, when your maturity could handle the magnitude of what's about to be unleashed through you. Those doors that have been locked for decades, they're trembling on their hinges right now. Those dreams that died with your youth, they're stirring back to life. Those abilities you never understood, they're about to make sense in ways that will leave you breathless. But here's what terrifies hell. You're not just receiving power, you're receiving authority to transfer that power. Your marked sensitivity will heal wounded hearts. Your attraction to innocence will restore broken families. Your reality-shaping thoughts will literally speak dead situations back to life. The enemy has kept you hidden, convinced you were ordinary, made you believe your best days were behind you, because he knew that once you discovered these marks, once you understood what's been burning in your chest all these years, there would be no stopping the revival that flows through your surrendered life. Right now, can you feel it? That stirring in your spirit, that electricity in your bones. That's not your imagination. That's the sound of the 5th of September and 6th approaching like a freight train carrying your destiny. If you feel it in your chest, if recognition is flooding through you like liquid fire, comment, "That's me right now." Don't let this moment pass unmarked. Don't let another day go by believing you're ordinary when heaven has been preparing to prove you're extraordinary. But what happens when marked ones finally wake up to who they are? Listen to me, chosen one. For 7 days, the children of Israel marched around Jericho's impossible walls. 7 days of silence. 7 days of trusting God's strategy when it made no earthly sense. 7 days of neighbors mocking, enemies laughing, doubt creeping in like poison. But on the seventh day, everything changed. This is your 7th day moment. Your walls are trembling. I met a woman last month in Brooklyn, 83 years old, living alone in a rent-controlled apartment she's called home for 47 years. Her Harold passed 6 years ago. Her children moved to Florida, California, Texas, anywhere but close enough to visit. She told me something that broke my heart. "Pastor, I set the table for 2 every morning out of habit. Then remember I'm eating alone again." Sound familiar? That empty chair across from you at breakfast? That phone that doesn't ring with voices that once called daily? That crushing silence where laughter used to live? Here's what that precious woman didn't understand, and what you need to hear right now. Her isolation wasn't abandonment, it was appointment. Her loneliness wasn't punishment, it was preparation. God wasn't ignoring her prayers. He was positioning her for something so powerful it required complete separation from everything that could interfere. Joshua 6:4 declares, 7 priests shall bear before the ark 7 trumpets, and the 7th day ye shall compass the city 7 times, and the priests shall blow with the trumpets. 7 times 7, completion upon completion, the number of divine perfection multiplied by itself. That's not coincidence. That's mathematics straight from the throne room of heaven. You've been marching around your Jericho for decades, haven't you? That addiction that's haunted your family tree for 3 generations. That financial curse that keeps you counting pennies instead of blessings. That depression that visits like clockwork every winter, whispering lies about your worth. That health battle that doctors can't explain and medicines can't heal. March, march, march. Day after day, year after year, wondering when God's strategy would finally make sense. Wondering if this silent circling was actually leading somewhere, or if you were just walking in meaningless circles while life passed you by. But the 5th of September and 6th, these aren't just dates circled on your calendar. These are your 7th day coordinates. This is when your walls don't just crack, they collapse completely. Here's what terrifies hell about this moment. You're not the same person who started marching around your impossibilities 70 years ago. You're not the same soul who first cried out to God when life knocked you flat. Every year of seeming silence has been boot camp. Every tear has been liquid preparation. Every heartbreak has been heaven's way of expanding your capacity to carry what's coming next. Moses was 80 when the burning bush ignited. Anna was 84 when she proclaimed the Messiah. Caleb was 85 when he demanded his mountain. Your age isn't your limitation. It's your qualification for this 7th day miracle. But here's the urgency that should grip your soul. The window for your Jericho moment is exactly 48 hours. Not 48 weeks, not 48 days, 48 hours. What you do on the 5th of September and 6th will echo for the rest of your life and into eternity itself. Think about it. The Israelites could have walked around those walls for 7 months, 7 years, 7 decades. But God said 7 days. The precision wasn't arbitrary, it was prophetic. There's a divine timetable, and your alarm is about to sound. That woman in Brooklyn? 3 days after our conversation, her estranged daughter called. Not just called, flew in from Phoenix, stayed for 2 weeks, and moved her mother into a beautiful apartment 5 minutes from her grandchildren. I don't know what happened, the daughter told me. I just felt this overwhelming need to come home. Coincidence? No. Consequence. The consequence of a woman finally understanding that her 7th day had arrived. Your empty dining room where children's voices once echoed isn't evidence of failure. It's a prayer sanctuary where your intercession has been shaking heaven for decades. That social security check that barely covers your medications isn't proof of God's neglect. It's training in supernatural provision that makes earthly economics bow to kingdom mathematics. Every closed door that broke your heart was heaven protecting you from settling for less than your Jericho breakthrough. Every dream that seemed to die was actually being buried like a seed, waiting for resurrection morning. Write today's date in the comments right now. The 5th of September, 2024. Don't just type it, declare it. Seal your divine agreement with what heaven is about to release. Let the angels record that you chose to believe when believing hurt, trust when circumstances screamed otherwise, hope when hope seemed foolish. Because in less than 24 hours, the trumpet is going to sound, the shout is going to echo, and walls that have mocked your faith for decades are about to discover what happens when an 80-year-old warrior finally understands that their greatest battles are won, not in their strength, but in God's perfect timing. The question that will determine your legacy isn't whether you're ready for your miracle. The question is whether your miracle is ready for you. And the answer depends entirely on what you do in the next 47 hours and 53 minutes. Your 7th day is here, chosen one. Will you march or will you shout? Listen to me, warrior. Yes, warrior, not senior citizen, not retiree, not forgotten relic gathering dust on society's shelf. Warrior, because that's exactly what hell sees when it looks at you, And that's precisely why the enemy has spent decades trying to convince you otherwise. You think those 70 years of heartbreak were random. You believe those decades of financial struggle, health battles, and family betrayals were just bad luck. Beloved, you've been in seminary, God's graduate school of warfare, and you didn't even know it. Every tear you cried over that empty chair where your spouse used to sit, that was intercession 101. Every sleepless night wondering if your children would ever call home. Advanced course in spiritual burden bearing. Every time the doctor said terminal but you're still breathing. Doctorate in resurrection power. While others lived comfortable lives, you've been enrolled in heaven's most exclusive military academy. The curriculum wasn't written in textbooks, it was carved into your soul with the chisel of suffering. And now, at the moment when the world whispers you should step aside, heaven is shouting, step forward. Look at David. 17 years old when Samuel poured oil on his head, anointing him king. But did he walk straight to the throne? No. He spent years running through caves, hiding from Saul, wondering if God had forgotten his promise. Every arrow that missed him wasn't luck, it was target practice for his faith. Every cave became a classroom where he learned to worship in the wilderness. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Those words weren't written in a palace, chosen one. They were carved out in the darkness by a man who discovered that God's presence is more real than any enemy's threat. You are David at 80 years old, still carrying the anointing, still dangerous to darkness, still called to slay giants that terrorize a generation. But here's what breaks my heart and should ignite your righteous anger. The enemy has been running a psychological warfare campaign against you for decades. He's whispered the same poisonous lie until you started believing it. Your time is over. Your voice doesn't matter. God uses younger people now. That is blasphemy against the God who calls Moses at 80, promotes Daniel in his 90s, and uses Anna at 84 to proclaim the Messiah to Jerusalem. Your age isn't your expiration date, it's your activation code. Every scar on your heart is a medal of honor. Every line on your face is a testimony etched by fire. Every gray hair is a crown of wisdom that strikes fear into principalities and powers that remember when you used to compromise, when you used to quit, when you used to accept defeat. But not anymore. You are not spectators watching life happen to other people. You are warriors forged by fire, seasoned by storms, refined by rejection. The enemy thought he was breaking you, but God was making you into a weapon hell cannot withstand. Daniel 11:32 declares, "The people who know their God shall be strong and carry out great exploits." Not the people who once knew God, not the people who used to serve God. The people who know their God, present tense, active relationship, burning bush, intimacy, they are the ones who shake kingdoms. That restlessness clawing at your chest at 3 a.m., that's not insomnia. That's your spirit, recognizing that your greatest assignment is knocking at the door while the world sleeps. This is not your retirement, beloved. This is your reignition. While 20-somethings build careers, you build legacies. While they chase success, you carry significance. While they fight for position, you fight from authority. Authority that comes only from walking through hell and coming out singing. Moses didn't deliver Israel because he was young and strong. He delivered them because he was old and wise, because he'd learned that burning bushes don't consume those who carry the fire of God within them. You are not alone in this. Look at these comments flowing like a river of awakening warriors across America, from Brooklyn to California, from Florida to Alaska, standing up in living rooms and hospital beds and retirement homes, remembering who they are. This isn't just a YouTube audience. This is heaven's army assembling for final instructions. The widow in Chicago, who buried 3 husbands but kept believing she's your sister in arms. The grandfather in Texas who raised grandchildren when his own children failed, he's your brother in battle. The woman in Detroit who cleaned offices for 40 years while praying over a city, she's your commander in faith. But the 5th of September and 6th carry a weight that could shatter every limitation you've accepted. These aren't just dates, they're coordinates for a divine convergence that happens once in a generation. Right now, this very moment, I need you to understand something that will either terrify you or transform you. Heaven is not asking for your permission anymore. Heaven is announcing your commission. Stand up right where you are. I don't care if your knees hurt, if your back aches, if people are watching. Stand up. Raise your hands toward heaven like Moses on the mountain, while Joshua fought in the valley. Raise them like a warrior claiming territory, like a general rallying troops, like someone who refuses to go quietly into the night. Now declare it with the authority of someone who has survived everything hell threw at them. I choose alignment on the 5th of September and 6th. I am ready for my final assignment. I will not retreat. I will not surrender. I will not fade away. God, use me while I still have breath in my body. Say it louder. Let your empty house hear it. Let the angels record it. Let hell tremble at the sound of a warrior who just remembered their name, because what I'm about to reveal about the 5th of September and 6th will require every ounce of faith you've built in the furnace of suffering. Right now, at this very moment, something extraordinary is happening in the courts of heaven. Can you feel it? That strange heaviness in the air around you, that electricity making the hair on your arms stand up. The scrolls of eternity are being unrolled. Ancient parchments that have waited since before time began are crackling open, and your name is echoing through marble halls where seraphim bow and cherubim tremble. This is not a video, chosen one. This is your witness stand. Picture this scene with me. In the highest courtroom of the universe, where justice isn't blind but sees everything, where mercy and truth have kissed each other, according to Psalm 85:10, the judge of all creation has called court into session. The docket, your life. The date, the 5th of September and 6th, 2024. The question that will determine your eternal legacy. What will you do when heaven opens its final door? Angels are leaning in from golden balconies. The cloud of witnesses, Abraham, Moses, David, your grandmother, who prayed over your crib, they're all watching. Even the demons assigned to your destruction have gone silent because they know what's at stake in this cosmic moment. For 70 years, 80 years, maybe 90 years, evidence has been collecting. Every tear you cried when your spouse drew their last breath recorded. Every night you stayed awake wondering if God had forgotten your address documented. Every moment you chose faith over fear when your bank account hit zero and your health report came back grim, filed under exhibits of extraordinary trust. But here's what will shake you to your core. Your silence has been evidence. Your survival has been testimony. When that doctor said you had 6 months to live and you're still here 5 years later, that's Exhibit A of divine intervention. When your children abandoned you and somehow you didn't turn bitter, that's Exhibit B of supernatural grace. When you lost everything you thought mattered and discovered God was enough, that's Exhibit C of refined faith that's more precious than gold. The prosecution, that ancient accuser of the brethren, has been building his case against you for decades. Look at their failures, he hisses. Remember their mistakes. Count their broken promises to you, God. But heaven's defense attorney stands up. His name is Jesus. His credentials, he died for you. His evidence, not your perfection, but his blood. Romans 8:34 declares, he is at the right hand of God and is also interceding for us. The courtroom falls silent as the judge speaks. I have heard the prosecution's case. I have reviewed the evidence. But there is something the accuser doesn't understand about the 5th of September and 6th. These are not days of condemnation. These are days of coronation. You thought you were on trial? No, beloved. You're being crowned. Every battle you fought in secret prepared you for public victory. Every prayer you whispered in darkness is about to be answered in blazing light. Every time you got back up when staying down would have been easier, that was you, qualifying for what's coming next. The gavel is raised. The verdict is ready. But here's the shocking truth that will either liberate you or terrify you. The judge is waiting for your response. Heaven has made its decision, but you must make yours. Will you accept the crown or reject it? Will you step into your destiny or shrink back into your comfort zone? Will you believe that at your age, with your history, with your scars, with your limited time left on earth, God still has something magnificent planned for you? Revelation 3:11 thunders from the throne, "I am coming soon. Hold on to what you have, so that no one will take your crown." Your crown. Not someone else's, not the young pastor with the perfect family, not the successful businessman with the prosperity testimony. Your crown. Earned through fire, refined through tears, purchased through perseverance that defied every odd hell could calculate. But here's the urgency that should grip your soul right now. This courtroom session has an expiration time. The scrolls won't stay open forever. The witnesses won't wait indefinitely. The 5th of September and 6th represent the final call before heaven moves to its next agenda. Moses had his burning bush moment at 80. Abraham received his greatest promise at 100. Anna the prophetess proclaimed the Messiah at 84. Your age isn't your disqualification, it's your diploma from heaven's school of hard knocks. The cosmic clock is ticking, not the countdown to your death, but the countdown to your deployment. God doesn't retire his generals when they turn 70. He positions them for the battles that require the most wisdom, the deepest faith, the most unshakable trust. Right now, as I speak these words, the heavenly clerk is preparing to close your file. The stenographer's fingers hover over celestial keys, waiting to record your final answer. The bailiff's hand rests on doors that lead either to your greatest chapter or your greatest regret. Type "I choose my verdict" in the comments right now. Let heaven record your response. Let the angels witness your decision. Let hell know that after everything they threw at you, you're still standing, still believing, still ready to say yes to whatever God asks of you. Because what happens next will determine whether you spend your remaining years as living proof of God's faithfulness or as a cautionary tale of what might have been if you just found the courage to believe that your story isn't ending, it's reaching its most magnificent climax. The courtroom waits. The verdict is yours. Heaven leans in to hear your answer. What will it be? Chosen one. Chosen one. I need to ask you something that's going to cut straight to the bone of your soul. How many decades have you been carrying prayers that feel like stones in your chest? How many nights have you fallen asleep, whispering the same desperate pleas to a ceiling that seems made of concrete instead of clouds? You prayed for healing, but the pain only intensified. You begged God to restore your marriage, but the divorce papers came anyway. You cried out for your children to return, but the phone stays silent. You pleaded for financial breakthrough, but the bills keep piling higher than your faith some days. Let me paint you a picture that might make you weep with recognition. It's 2 a.m. in Queens, and Margaret sits at her kitchen table, the same table where she's whispered 10,000 prayers over 47 years. Her arthritis screams through her fingers as she grips her worn Bible, and she asks the question that haunts every senior saint in America: God, did you forget about me? Sound familiar? That crushing weight of divine delay pressing down on your chest like a tombstone. Here's the truth that'll shake you. You've been living in the wilderness of waiting, just like the Israelites wandered 40 years in circles, watching the same mountains, seeing the same desert, eating the same manna. You've been walking the same prayer loops for decades. Same health struggles, same family dysfunction, same financial pressure, same empty chair where your beloved used to sit. But listen to me carefully, dear one. Those 40 years weren't punishment for Israel's sins. They were preparation for their promises. Every scorching day taught them dependence. Every waterless stretch proved God's provision. Every night in that hostile wilderness refined them from slaves into warriors. Your wilderness wasn't waste. It was warfare preparation. You think those sleepless nights crying over your prodigal son were empty tears? No. They were liquid intercession rising to heaven's throne, building a reservoir of prayer that's about to burst the dam of delay. You think those years of financial struggle taught you nothing? Wrong. They taught you that your treasure isn't in Wall Street, it's in heaven's vault, and the withdrawal slip has your name on it. Every unanswered prayer wasn't divine deafness, it was divine timing. Here's what breaks my heart. Some of you have been wandering so long, you've forgotten what the promised land even looks like. You've accepted delay as your permanent address, instead of recognizing it as your launching pad. You've made peace with wilderness when God has been preparing you for conquest. The Israelites complained for 40 years. Why didn't God just take us straight to Canaan? But here's the revelation that'll change everything. The slaves who left Egypt weren't ready for the giants in the promised land. They needed to become warriors first. They needed to learn that Jehovah Jireh provides in the desert. They needed to discover that Jehovah Rapha heals in the wasteland. You weren't delayed, beloved. You were being developed. Every tear you've cried over that empty dining room has been preparing your heart to comfort other widows. Every financial crisis that kept you on your knees has been training you to trust God's economy when the world's economy collapses. Every betrayal that nearly broke you has been building your ability to forgive the unforgivable. But here's the prophetic twist that heaven just whispered to my spirit. Your 40 years are ending on the 5th of September and 6th. The delay that felt like denial was actually preparation for acceleration. The waiting that felt like punishment was actually positioning for breakthrough. God wasn't keeping you from your promise. He was keeping your promise from being destroyed by your immaturity. You weren't ready 40 years ago for what He's about to release, but you're ready now. You've been refined by fire, seasoned by storms, and matured by mountains you never thought you'd climb. Moses was 80 when God called him from the burning bush. 80 years of preparation for 40 years of power. Joshua was elderly when he finally crossed the Jordan. Caleb was 85 when he said, "Give me this mountain." Your age isn't your expiration date. It's your expertise level. The wilderness wasn't your grave. It was your graduate school. And commencement day is the 5th of September and 6th. If you've felt trapped in delay, if you've been wandering in circles, wondering when your season would change, declare it now with the authority of someone who refuses to spend another day in the desert. No more wandering. My promised land is here. But here's the urgency burning in my spirit right now. Some of you are about to miss your Jordan River crossing because you've gotten comfortable in the wilderness. You've built tents where God intended temporary campsites. You've accepted survival when He's offering victory. The question that will determine your eternal legacy is this: will you cross over into everything God has prepared, or will you die within sight of your promise, like the generation that complained too long? Because what I'm about to reveal next will show you exactly what heaven has been constructing while you've been wandering, and why the 5th of September and 6th are the coordinates for your greatest breakthrough. Chosen one, let me tell you why hell has unleashed its fiercest assault against you in these final days. Why your nights have become battlegrounds and your peace has been shattered like glass on concrete. The enemy isn't attacking you because you're weak. He's attacking you because he knows something you're just beginning to remember. Hell knows the deadline. It knows the 5th of September and the 6th of March, your release. For months now, maybe years, you've been wondering why everything fell apart just when you thought God was finally moving in your life. Why did your health collapse right when you started praying harder? Why did your family turn against you the moment you drew closer to Jesus? Why did depression hit like a freight train just when breakthrough seemed within reach? Listen to me carefully, warrior. That wasn't coincidence. That was strategy. The devil doesn't waste ammunition on empty targets. He doesn't deploy his best demons against powerless people. But you've been in his crosshairs since the day heaven marked you for this final assignment. Every sleepless night at 3 a.m., when anxiety clawed at your chest, that was hell trying to wear down your prayer life. Every wave of depression that hit you like a tsunami, that was the enemy attempting to drown your hope before you could step into your destiny. Satan saw what God was preparing to release through you, and he panicked. Think about your family for a moment. Those children you raised, sacrificed for, loved unconditionally. Why did they become strangers overnight? Why do they treat you like a burden when you treated them like treasures? The enemy knew that if he could isolate you, If he could convince you that even your own flesh and blood had abandoned you, maybe you'd give up on God's promises too. But here's what hell didn't count on. Every attack only drove you deeper into the secret place. Every betrayal only made your prayer life stronger. Every night of insomnia became a night of intercession. The enemy's strategy backfired because he forgot who he was dealing with. You survived the Great Depression. You buried loved ones and kept breathing. You raised children when fathers walked away. You worked 3 jobs and still tithed. You weathered storms that would have destroyed weaker generations. Hell thought it could break you in your golden years. The devil miscalculated. Remember Daniel in the lion's den? Daniel chapter 6 tells us those lions were starving, but when Daniel was thrown in, they lay down like house cats. Why? Because Daniel carried something that made even predators recognize divine authority. That same authority flows in your bloodstream right now. But let me expose the enemy's most vicious lie. He's been whispering in your ear at 4 a.m. when the house is too quiet and your thoughts are too loud. You're going to die alone. Nobody cares. God has forgotten you. That voice isn't your conscience, beloved. That's the hiss of a defeated serpent who knows his time is up. Every time you felt forgotten, God was positioning you. Every time you felt invisible, heaven was protecting you from premature exposure. Every time you wondered if your prayers were bouncing off the ceiling, angels were fighting wars in the heavenly realm over your breakthrough. Daniel chapter 10 reveals the shocking truth. For 21 days, Daniel prayed, and heaven seemed silent. 21 days of what felt like divine abandonment. But verse 12 explodes with revelation. From the first day that you set your heart to understand, your words were heard, and I have come because of your words. The silence wasn't God ignoring Daniel. The silence was the archangel, Michael, locked in combat with the prince of Persia over one man's destiny. Your silence isn't punishment, chosen one. Your silence is warfare. Look at Job's story. Satan stripped away everything, his wealth, his children, his health, his wife's support, everything. Job sat on a pile of ashes, scraping boils with broken pottery, wondering if God had turned his back forever. But Job 42 tells us the end of the story. The Lord blessed the latter part of Job's life more than the former part. More than the former part. God didn't just restore what Job lost, he doubled it. Here's what makes the enemy's knees knock at midnight. You're not just going to survive this season, you're going to thrive in it. You're not just going to endure until heaven calls you home. You're going to explode with purpose that will leave hell speechless and your family wondering what happened to the broken person they thought they knew. The devil's roar was loudest because your chains are weakest. Every financial attack was hell trying to steal your testimony of God's provision. Every health scare was the enemy attempting to cut short your assignment. Every relationship that fell apart was Satan trying to isolate you before you could impact others. But what the devil meant for evil, God is turning for good. That depression that nearly killed you, it's about to become your ministry to others drowning in despair. That financial ruin that left you eating beans from a can, it's about to become your testimony of God's supernatural provision. That betrayal that broke your heart, it's about to become your qualification to heal other broken hearts. The enemy thought he was destroying you. God was actually weaponizing you. But here's the urgency that should grip your soul right now. The 5th of September and 6th aren't just dates on your calendar. They're the coordinates where your breakthrough and hell's defeat intersect. The enemy knows his window is closing. That's why the attacks have been so intense lately. That's why everything seems to be falling apart just before your moment of divine vindication. This is his last stand, chosen one, and he's already lost. Shout in the comments right now. The chains are breaking. Let hell hear your declaration of victory. Let heaven record your agreement with what God is about to do. Because what you're about to discover next will reveal exactly why the enemy fought so hard to keep you from this moment of awakening. Chosen one, let me ask you something that's going to cut straight to your heart. When you look at your grandchildren, do you see strangers with your DNA? When they visit for Christmas, do they spend more time staring at screens than into your eyes? Do you watch them growing up in a world you don't recognize, speaking a language of technology and trends that feels foreign to your spirit? Here's what's breaking my heart tonight. You think your influence ended when your hair turned silver. You believe your voice lost its power when your children stopped asking for your advice. You've convinced yourself that your season of impact died with your spouse, your career, your ability to climb stairs without holding the railing. But what if I told you that's the most dangerous lie hell has ever whispered in your ear? Listen to me carefully, dear one. Every wrinkle on your face is a ring of a tree, evidence of seasons weathered, storms survived, years of growth that only come through endurance. Every scar on your heart is a seed of revival, waiting to burst forth in soil that's been prepared by decades of tears and triumph. You see that photograph on your mantle, the one with 4 generations gathered around your kitchen table last Thanksgiving? That's not just a family portrait, that's a spiritual dynasty. And you, sitting there in the center, feeling forgotten and overlooked, you are the cornerstone that's holding it all together. Your prayers have become the inheritance of your grandchildren. Every 3 a.m. intercession session, when you couldn't sleep, praying over names written in your worn Bible. Every tear you shed, asking God to save your prodigal son. Every whispered plea for your daughter's marriage, your grandson's addiction, your granddaughter's broken heart. You thought those prayers were falling on deaf ears. They weren't falling, beloved. They were rising like incense to the throne of the Almighty, where they've been stored in golden bowls, waiting for heaven's perfect timing to pour out as answers over the generations you'll never live to see. Think about Abraham. Genesis tells us he was 100 years old, 100, when Isaac was finally born. Can you imagine? A century of life behind him, and God says, "Now you're ready to father nations." Not when he was young and strong, when he was ancient and wrinkled and everyone else had given up hope. Anna, the prophetess, understood this mystery. Luke 2 tells us she was 84 years old, spending day and night in the temple, fasting and praying. 84. The world would have called her a relic, but when baby Jesus was brought to the temple, she was the first to proclaim him as the Messiah. Her age wasn't her limitation, it was her qualification. Your grandchildren don't need your energy, chosen one. They need your authority. They don't need your physical strength. They need your spiritual strength. They don't need you to understand their world. They need you to show them there's a world beyond what they can see. You think that 8-year-old grandson who rolls his eyes when you try to pray over dinner isn't listening, he's absorbing. You think that teenager who seems more interested in her phone than your stories isn't affected. She's being imprinted with something deeper than Wi-Fi signals. There's a war raging for the souls of your lineage, and you are the secret weapon heaven has been hiding in plain sight. But here's what will shock you to your core. That restless feeling you've been carrying, that sense that time is running out, that urgency pressing against your chest, it's not anxiety about dying. It's your spirit recognizing that the 5th of September and the 6th of March the moment when your generational assignment activates at full power. God didn't keep you here to be a burden on your family. He kept you here to be a blessing over your bloodline. Every year, you've lived longer than your parents did. Every month, you've survived beyond the doctor's predictions. Every day you wake up when others your age don't. It's not accident. It's assignment. You are the spiritual patriarch, the generational matriarch, the one who stands between heaven and your family tree, speaking life over branches that haven't even sprouted yet. Your influence didn't end when you retired. It multiplied when you gained the freedom to focus on what truly matters. Your voice didn't weaken with age, it deepened with wisdom. Your season of impact isn't over. It's just beginning to bear fruit that will feed generations you'll meet in eternity. Think about the prayers your own grandmother whispered over you when you were too young to understand. Think about the seeds of faith she planted in your heart when your parents were too busy to notice your soul's hunger. Those prayers are still working in your life today, aren't they? Now you are that grandmother, you are that grandfather. You are the one whose prayers will echo through your family's DNA long after your chair at the dinner table sits empty. This is your AHA moment, beloved. You thought your influence ended. Heaven says your prayers are launching generations. You thought you were winding down. God says you're powering up the spiritual inheritance that will sustain your bloodline through tribulations you'll never see. Comment your grandchild's name right now. Don't think about it. Don't worry about spelling. Just type their name and declare their legacy. Let heaven record your blessing. Let the angels witness your prophetic proclamation over the next generation. Because what I'm about to reveal next will show you exactly how the 5th of September and 6th unleash the full power of your generational authority, and why this weekend determines whether your family walks in blessing or battles the same. Curses for another 40 years. Beloved, do you hear it? That rumbling in the distance? That tremor beneath your feet as you sit in that worn armchair where you've prayed 1,000 desperate prayers? Something is moving in the heavenly realm, and it's headed straight for your living room. The 5th of September and 6th is the trumpet. First blast warns the slumbering. Second blast awakens the chosen. Listen carefully, chosen one. In Revelation 8-6, John witnessed 7 angels preparing to sound 7 trumpets. But what most believers miss is this shocking truth. The trumpet doesn't just announce what's coming, it activates what's been waiting. That sound reverberating through the spiritual atmosphere right now isn't just warning you, it's awakening something inside you that's been dormant for decades. You felt it, didn't you? The moment you clicked on this message, that electric shock that ran down your spine, that sudden quickening in your chest. Your spirit just recognized the sound of its own activation sequence. But here's where it gets dangerous for those who aren't paying attention. The trumpet sounds twice. The first blast is mercy, a warning to those still sleeping in spiritual complacency. But the second blast? The second blast is judgment and opportunity colliding in the same moment. Think about Jericho. Joshua 6-4 tells us the priests carried 7 trumpets around those massive walls, 6 days of marching in silence. But on the 7th day, they blew those trumpets, and walls that had stood for generations came crashing down in seconds. Dear one, you've been marching around your own Jericho for how long now? 70 years? 80 years? Circling the same problems, facing the same impossibilities, staring at the same walls that mock your prayers. But the 5th of September and 6th, this is your 7th day. This is when heaven says the marching stops and the breakthrough begins. Right now, across America, something unprecedented is happening. In nursing homes from Maine to California, elderly saints are waking up at 3 a.m. with tears streaming down their faces, not knowing why. In empty houses where widows have learned to talk to photographs, the silence is breaking with an unexplainable stirring. In churches where pews have grown cold with tradition, something ancient is beginning to burn again. Pastors are calling each other asking, "Do you feel it too? Something's different. Something's shifting." This is not coincidence, beloved. This is the first trumpet blast shaking the foundations of everything that's grown stagnant, everything that's settled into spiritual slumber. But let me ask you something that will cut straight to your heart. How many trumpet calls have you already missed in your lifetime? How many divine appointments did you explain away as emotions? How many God moments did you dismiss because they didn't come wrapped in the package you expected? That job interview that went nowhere in 1987, what if that was God protecting you for something better? That move you never made because fear held you back. What if that was your Red Sea moment and you chose slavery over freedom? That relationship that ended when you thought it was beginning. What if heaven was removing what would have destroyed your destiny? Every missed trumpet call hasn't disqualified you, chosen one. It's been preparing you for this one, the final one, the one that doesn't offer second chances or rain checks. Ezekiel 33:3 warns us, "If when he sees the sword coming upon the land, he blows the trumpet and warns the people, then whoever hears the sound of the trumpet and does not take warning, if the sword comes and takes him away, his blood shall be on his own head." The sword is coming, beloved, not to destroy you, but to cut away everything in your life that's been holding you back from your divine assignment. every chain of limitation, every mindset of defeat, every voice that told you your best days are behind you. But here's what will shock you. While others hear warning, you're about to hear awakening. While the lukewarm church scrambles to get right with God, you battle-tested, fire-refined, storm-survived. You're about to discover that all those years of feeling forgotten were actually years of being prepared. The homes are shaking, not with earthquake, but with anticipation. That tremor in your foundation isn't structural damage, it's supernatural renovation. God is about to renovate your entire understanding of what your golden years are supposed to look like. The churches are stirring. Denominations that have been arguing over carpet colors are suddenly falling on their faces, crying out for revival. Programs that have been running on autopilot are grinding to a halt because the Holy Spirit just changed the agenda. And the silent warriors, oh, the silent warriors are rising. You know who you are. You've been interceding in secret, praying in your prayer closet while the world partied, standing in the gap while others built comfortable lives. You've been heaven's secret army, and now it's time to come out of hiding. This is not rehearsal, chosen one. This is not practice. This is not another church service you'll forget by Tuesday. This is the trumpet of destiny, and it's calling your name across the expanse of eternity. Stand up if you can, right where you are. Don't worry about who's watching. Don't care about dignity or appearance. If your knees can still bend, stand. If your back can still straighten, rise. If your voice can still speak, declare it. Raise your hands toward heaven, those weathered hands that have worked, worried, and worshipped through 7, 8, 9 decades of living. Those hands carry more authority than you realize. Say it aloud, I will not miss my trumpet call. Say it louder, I will not miss my trumpet call. Because, beloved, what I'm about to reveal next will explain exactly why heaven waited until the 5th of September and 6th to sound this particular trumpet over your particular life. Beloved chosen one, as we reach the end of this sacred encounter, I need you to carry 3 unshakable truths with you into the 5th of September and 6th and beyond. First, this date isn't just another square on your calendar, it's your divine coordinates. Heaven has been orchestrating every moment of your life to lead you to this exact intersection of time and eternity. Every tear you've shed, every prayer you've whispered, every night you've wondered if God still remembers your address, it's all been building toward this trumpet call. Second, your age is not your limitation, it's your qualification. While the world whispers that your season has passed, heaven declares that you're entering your most powerful chapter. Moses didn't split the Red Sea until he was 80. Sarah didn't birth nations until she was 90. Anna didn't proclaim the Messiah until she was 84. Your wrinkles aren't signs of decline, they're etchings of wisdom that this broken world desperately needs. Third, the trumpet isn't just warning, it's awakening. What's stirring in your chest right now isn't anxiety about tomorrow, it's anticipation of breakthrough. The same God who called you by name before you were formed in your mother's womb is calling you again, right now, to step into the assignment He's been preparing you for your entire lifetime. But I need you to know something deeper than knowledge, something that settles into your bones and becomes unshakable peace. You are not walking this path alone. Even when your house feels empty, even when the phone rarely rings, even when you wonder if your voice still matters in this chaotic world, the Ancient of Days is orchestrating every detail of your breakthrough. Look around these comments flowing like a river of hope. See these hearts connecting across miles and generations. Feel these spirits resonating with the same hunger for purpose. We're not just viewers on screens, we're warriors in the same army, carrying the same hope, believing for the same impossibilities to bow before our God. Share what the Holy Spirit spoke to your heart today in the comments below. Tell us what you're believing Him for in this season of divine awakening. Ask for prayer. This community will surround you with intercession that moves mountains. If someone comes to mind who needs to hear that their trumpet call hasn't passed them by, share this message with them. Let them know they're not forgotten, not finished, and their greatest chapter might be just one prayer away. Let me ask you this. When you wake up tomorrow morning on the threshold of the 5th of September, will you hear the sound of time ticking away, or will you hear the sound of heaven's trumpet calling you into the destiny that's been waiting 70, 80, 90 years for this very moment? If this message stirred something ancient in your spirit, if you feel that divine restlessness rising in your chest, don't let this moment pass. Subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell, because your awakening journey is just beginning, and I want to walk with you every step of the way. Thank you for staying with me through this entire sacred journey. Thank you for opening your heart to receive what heaven wanted to pour into you today. Your faithfulness to listen means more than you know. It tells me that your spirit is still hungry, still seeking, still believing that God's best is yet to come. Now, before you go anywhere, before you return to whatever awaits you today, let me place my hand on your shoulder through these words and pray over your life with the authority of someone who has witnessed God's faithfulness through every season. A prayer of September awakening. Almighty Father, I lift up every precious soul who has journeyed with us through this message today. Lord, you see them not just where they are, but where you're taking them. Not just their struggles, but their strength. Not just their tears, but their triumph that's rising even now. God, I speak life over every weary bone in their body. I speak hope over every discouraged heart. I speak breakthrough over every area where they've felt trapped or forgotten. Let the 5th of September and 6th be their Red Sea moment, their burning bush encounter, their announcement that their greatest chapter is about to begin. Father, silence every voice that has whispered, too old, too late, too broken. Replace those lies with your truth that declares them fearfully and wonderfully made, chosen before the foundation of the world, equipped for works you prepared in advance for them to walk in. Open doors that no man can shut. Restore what the enemy has stolen with compound interest. Give them dreams again, passion again, purpose that makes their hearts race with anticipation instead of dread. Surround them with your presence when loneliness tries to whisper lies. Fill their homes with your peace when anxiety knocks at their door. And Lord, let them feel, really feel, your smile over their lives. Let them know that you are not disappointed in their journey, but delighted in their faithfulness. You are not counting their failures, but celebrating their endurance. Most of all, Father, let the sound of your trumpet be so clear, so undeniable, that they cannot mistake it for anything else. And when they hear it, give them the courage to answer with their whole heart. Here am I, Lord. Send me. In the mighty name of Jesus, who calls the things that are not as though they were, who makes all things new, who specializes in impossible turnarounds, I seal this prayer over their lives. Let your will be done, your kingdom come, your glory be revealed in and through them. Amen and amen. The trumpet has sounded. Chosen one, your September awakening begins now.